Hi there. Hey, if you're above a certain age, or if you know somebody who's above a certain age and have wondered all your life or recently that you may be on the autism spectrum, I want you to stay here with me. As you go along with my journey, there's maybe something you'll find here similar to what you're feeling. And I would love to be able to commiserate with you and help you. My name is Randy. I'm the Autistic Grandpa. And in this video and in subsequent videos, I'm going to be talking about my journey because it's probably similar to a lot of yours. When I was approaching retirement, I said to my wife, I said, one of the things I want to do, I've always wanted to do, is kind of find out who I am. I don't feel like I fit. I don't feel like I fit in the world. I feel like the leftover puzzle piece at the end of the jigsaw puzzle that can't find a space for. I don't quite feel like an alien, but I don't quite feel like I completely fit in the world. So we found a therapist that was referred to us, and it's the first time I'd ever been to therapy, and went in and kind of as expected, the therapist said, "Well, tell me, Randy, why are we here today?" My answer, which I'd kind of rehearsed, and I'm going to give it to you right now, but it's going to sound a little braggadocious, and I don't mean it to. It's just that this is important to why I went to the therapist in the first place. I said, you know what? I feel like I've been a successful person. I've got a bachelor's degree in math. I've got an MBA from a prominent university. I've worked my way up through business to middle and upper level management positions. The last 10 years, I've owned my own business, which I was able to sell for enough to retire early. Over the years, I've spoken to thousands in auditoriums and classrooms. I've been on TV about 25 times. I've been on the radio 5 or 6 times as being interviewed. All of these things come about, and yet I feel like a failure. I feel like I don't measure up. I feel like I'm not worthy of what I've received. I feel like I'm a fraud. Well, the first thing a therapist does is something I think they often do. She dove into my childhood. And we delved around in my childhood a little bit, and we found that, yeah, I had problems that most kids have. I did have a lot of poverty. Um, but at the end of the day, I seem to have overcome all of those things. Those things weren't holding me back. I had two parents who loved me. I felt like I belonged in that family and was part. So that wasn't the problem. But like I said, I always felt like a puzzle piece that was missing. I told her I long lived inside my head that I would I would love to just be there and figure things out and wonder. But I was always kind of trying to figure out where I fit. I always had trouble forming attachments, except for my family. So even though I think I'm likable, I think people like me, I never was able to form those attachments that were long living. I haven't had a real friend since high school, but I didn't realize it until I went through therapy and started looking back and going, oh, yeah, I don't have any friends. As I look back, I'm not sure that bothered me. I was comfortable with who I was, but it was odd when I would see um, acquaintances or work buddies who talked about their roommates in college, or a teacher they had in high school that they're still talking to, or a neighbor they used to have that still drops by and visits. I didn't have those. It was like when I left a situation, a job or school, I just left all those behind, and I really had no desire or talent to keep those attachments. I've always had a quirkiness, and I was telling her that I do things kind of weird, and I realize it, and I realize that people sometimes cock their head a little bit at looking at me, and sometimes they had a little trouble getting to know me and they said I had a great sense of humor once they got to know me, but before that they thought I was, it was a little weird sense of humor. So after about 45 minutes of going through these things, I finally said to the therapist, I said, sometimes I wonder if I might be on the autism spectrum. She got a little grin on her face. She picked up her legal pad and she turned it around, and it said autism and circled. And I went, well, there you go. There you go. I'd never known anybody that was autistic. I mean, I know of them, but I mean, not personally, not in my family. And I guess I always thought the autism scale was like 0 to 100, and 0 was no autism, and 100 was really severe. I didn't realize that it was more like a circle, and you had high places and low places, and that I fit somewhere in there, but it doesn't mean there's another person exactly like me. So she sent me home with quite a few tests to take online, and I took those, and those all showed that I was autistic. And then over the next several weeks, we talked about my traits that kind of led me to autism, or led her to believe that I was autistic, and finally I was diagnosed with Asperger's, because I do have the intelligence, but I don't have all the social skills and such that would I mean, those kind of things that would go along with that. I reflect on my life and started reflecting on my life and thinking about all the times that I spent by myself. I laid awake one night and just went through my whole life looking at situations where I went, oh, yeah, there I'm autistic. Oh, yeah, that says I'm autistic. And a lot of times, I was the little kid on the playground that the teacher came out and had to bring back in from recess because I was following a bug around too close. Or I was the kid in summer camp who decided to go out and get in the canoe by himself and take off, and everybody had to come find me because I was out by myself. And even in my adult years, I went to Asia for part of my MBA program, and during the day we met with businesses and such, and during the night we pretty much had free time to go explore. And while everybody else was going with groups or pairing off, here's me. I'm walking down the streets of Beijing at night by myself, just because that's where I wanted to be and that's where I felt the most comfortable. People always ask me, how did I feel when I found out that I was on the spectrum? And they're surprised at my answer. What would your answer be? Because mine was elated, because all of a sudden my life made sense. All those years of trying to fit into everybody else's world, and it didn't work. Finally, I realized I had my own world, and I fit in my own world, and it just made me feel great. Over the next several videos, I'm going to go through the traits that really stand out to me that make me, or a result of my autism. And I'll also go over, there's traits that I don't have, that I don't fit. And I'll certainly point those out, because it is a spectrum. I don't have everything, but I have some things, and some things that they're not even close to me. And I hope if you follow me along on this journey, you'll be able to see um, maybe something in you that would help. I'm not saying you're autistic, because I'm certainly not going to diagnose you. I'm not an expert. I have no skill other than my journey, but I hope that and at some point I'm even going to ask the question, if I could have known earlier, would I have wanted to know earlier? And that's something I still wrestle with. So join me on a subsequent video, and we'll go through this process, and we'll see. Maybe you can join me. Please comment down below in the comments. Obviously, where else would you comment? Because I'd love to hear your journey. I'd love to see what you think about things that you've seen in yourself, or if you just want to tell me I'm up in the night. I don't care. But I'd love to hear from you. It'd be nice to form a little community of people that are going through the same thing I am. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you on another video.